Yes, good evening all. Welcome to this today's live session. And if you have any queries regarding the activity and practice question as well as the project, you can ask the questions now. So we are here to help you. Yes, you can post it either in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and ask your question in this live session. Can you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, Adarsh. We
Hello,
can
am I
able
audible?
to hear. Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so good evening, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. So as we know, this is the first session of week 10, right? So we'll generally discuss the practice and activity questions for this week, and we will also take some questions if required from the previous weeks. Okay, now, so there are various queries on the project. So I would strongly suggest you to ask your doubts here. So this is where you can clear your doubts regarding project in person, right? Front one to one. So because everything and anything cannot be written on the discourse, right? So uh, after all, they are all words. So it would be better if you ask your doubts here and get your things clear. So based on all your requests and queries, you think that there should be a special session which will clear your doubts on which will take you through the project statement, as in what we expect, what exactly we want you to create. We'll be having a session on it, so it will be scheduled for Friday, right? So it will be on the in the place of the solve with instructor session that we generally have on Fridays, right? So our faculty Tej sir will also be joining us, and there you can ask your doubt regarding the project from the scratch. Okay, but that is not it, right? So you can ask it here also. You don't have to ask every trivial doubt in that session. You can, if at all you are stuck with something, you can ask it here. And one more thing, probably so the query regarding the API and its uses has not been resolved, right? Even though we have tried to solve it during in the discourse by giving some resources and some basic examples. I guess people are still facing issues on that. So I guess a small session, as in a small practical part, like solve with instructor, will be having on Saturday. Okay? So we'll try to have it on Saturday. So I'm sure you're clear with this complete week's agenda for solve this thing live sessions, right? So the Friday will be having session on the project discussion. You can ask your questions or queries related to project, the CRUD operations on tracker, the CRUD operations on each tracker and user, right? And how you want to go with it, and what are your confusions you can clear with directly the faculty. And the next thing is about loading your APIs. So that will be covered on Saturday's session. Okay. So meanwhile, if there are any doubts, we are here to clear. Yeah. So same thing, right? We'll have this. You can unmute yourself and ask your doubt for for any reason. If there are any issues where you cannot unmute, you can simply write your questions or things on chat. Yes, Bhavya. So there has been an operational issue due to which I could not give the slides on Sunday. And the thing is still on working, right? This is in progress. So I'll try to get it by today or tomorrow morning at the latest. All right. Really sorry for the delay, but I'll have it. I'll get it done by today evening or tomorrow morning at the latest. Okay. Thanks. Okay, so how many, let me know how many of you have watched videos of week 10? Okay, still not done with questions? Any issues with the video? How about the video and the audio quality? Is it fine,
This
better
time
than?
the audio quality was better than the last week.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, back to normal. Yeah. So there was an issue with week 9, right? Which will not happen in coming weeks also, and this issue will not be repeated again. So that was something that is okay. That was an issue for week 9. So we are back in track with the quality and things. Yeah. So last week, yes, there was a bit comparatively the noise was not that great. Okay, so quiz 2 portion will be so it will be from week 1 to week 8, right from the beginning, but major emphasis will be given on contents of week 5 to week 8, right? Since we already have had a quiz on week on specific concepts of week 1 to 4, mostly those have already cleared, right? But since we need to connect, we should be able to connect the dots and relate to each and every part of all the contents of week 1 to 12, right? Whatever we have studied. So that is why the portion for coming exams also will be all beginning from week 1. Okay, so week 2 will be basically, so in short, week 2 will be weeks 1 to 8. Yes, of course, you don't have to go to very much details in week 1 to 4. More more weightage will be given to questions from week 5 to week 8. Okay, which will be clear in mock also. Okay, so Bhavya, you raised your hand. So is it because of questions or videos or something else?
Yes, sir. Sir, today morning we received a mail saying that a mock for quiz 2 has been released, but it's nowhere to be found on the portal.
Yeah. So it will be coming. Yeah, it should be available anytime.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so
And
I read the thread. There may be some issue with the portal and things.
all right, sir.
Okay.
And sir, the graded document says that out of the 25 marks for the project, 10 marks is a general viva.
Hmm.
So in the general viva, what is the purview? Like, is it just from, or like, is it an all encompassing viva, all the 12 weeks, or is there some sort of set um course as such, like just all the 12 weeks, first 11, something like that?
No, all the 12 weeks.
All 12 weeks. Okay, sir.
Yeah. So all the 12 weeks, but see, we have our own weightage for each week, right?
Yes, sir.
We so there are some things, most of the things can be tested with your project itself, right? So the question statement is designed in that way so that you make or employ each contents of each week
Yes.
in proper manner. But Viva is something that takes care of some things that are not that are something that can be skipped in project. For example, APIs, or for example, things that are recommended but not graded.
All right, sir.
Okay, so it will be covering concepts related questions. Okay, and something that we might want to know from you, like uh, how was your learning curve in particular topic.
Okay, sir. And sir, I had a doubt in lecture 10.3.
Okay.
Sir, how would we, what is model-based testing? Like for abstract tests, we received some explanation that it is a semi-formal verbal description. For model-based testing, we just received an example of authenticating the user before showing them the information. So what is model testing at its heart? Like if, how do we generalize this concept of authorizing users?
No. See, this is not only something that is related to authorizing users. See, model is not what we look at as a model in our course, right? So in our course, generally when we talk about model, the first thing that comes in our mind is that model of MVC.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
but this is not that model. Forget about MVC. What did you know about a model before MVC? Okay, so this is
real
something.
world, some things to
After-
simulate a real world event.
Yes, right. Something that whose output is something that you know, right? Whose input is something that you know, okay, and there's something is happening, and then you model so that it gives equivalent results. Okay, a model is something, right? Model is a substitution of something that is actually happening,
Okay, sir, got it.
right? So that model you have to take into consideration. Okay, and model-based testing is same thing, right? So if you have input, okay, if you have certain process happening at the center and you are receiving an output, okay, so there has to be some mechanism or some transfer function in between that is processing the input and giving you the output. Okay, now you are creating a model and then giving the same inputs to that model and finding out the output. Now the difference between the actual outputs and the outputs your model give, okay, now how close they are is something that is taken into testing of that model.
Okay, sir, got it.
Right, so it is not the model that we
So it's totally different from the model of the
yes.
MVC.
Yes, yes.
Okay, got it, sir.
So
Thank you.
it's not totally different. It is like the model which you knew before MVC.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Sir, I have a doubt in the function coverage.
Okay.
What is the difference between statement coverage,
Yes,
branch
go ahead,
coverage, like, and conditional coverage?
All right, just
Rakesh, I think his
Hello?
Adarsh. Yes. Now you are audible, Adarsh.
Yeah. So just wanted a minute. So okay. Yeah. So you wanted to know difference between the conditional coverage and all the sorts of coverage, right? So have you gone
Yes,
through
sir.
a question that was there? I don't remember if it was in practice or graded, but it gives you a clear idea of how it should be, right?
Yes,
What
sir.
are the
I have gone. Yes, I have gone through the questions, but I have a specific doubt. Like, in the statement coverage, the PDF says that foo 1, 1 that covers all the statements. Like, I want to know that if I put just 1, 0 or only 0, 1, then will it be a statement? Then will the test be statement coverage or not?
Okay, so you are. Can you come again with this condition once again?
Uh, in the lecture PDF, there is one example. Yes, there. If I put 1, 0 or 2, 0 or anything like positive value, 0 or 0, positive value, will those be statement coverage test or not?
Positive value of 0. So why are you relating it with the condition, by the way?
Because one is conditional coverage. For that, all the conditions should be like tested. But in statement coverage, it is I just want to know the statement coverage means only the statement should be like tested, right? I mean, all the conditions may not be tested by the particular test.
Okay, now see, so if you look at the example that is given for statement coverage, okay, what will happen if the condition fails?
If the condition fails, then
so if the condition fails, the compiler will move out of that condition and go to the end of the program, right?
yes, then all the
Okay,
statements will not be.
and it will not go inside the loop or inside the condition where the statements regarding to truth of the condition is given, right? So the statement that will be running or that will be executed when the condition becomes true are there, right? So if by any chance the state condition becomes false, the statement within the condition will not be covered, right?
Yes, yes.
Now, if you want the statement, now what is coverage? Coverage is to check whether your example, right? Your example is able to run a code in a way that all the statements of the code are executed or not.
Okay,
Okay,
all the
should I
statements.
repeat? You should
No,
give a
sir. One thing
Huh.
that
Okay.
in the if statement, if x greater than 0 and y greater than 0, so it is covered in the if statement means any like if it was or like with not and but or. Then only one statement passing will it be statement coverage for the like the if statement coverage like x greater than 0 or y greater than 0 in
Yeah.
that case.
Yeah. In that case, will the condition be satisfied?
Okay, so that means the if statement is covered, is it?
Yes, if statement is covered. Now, with the help of that if statement, are the statements within the if condition covered or not? That is something
Yes,
that you have
for
to check.
this okay, for this example it is covered.
No, no, not for this example. This example is
Yes.
something that will make sure that it is a statement coverage. You have to interpret it in this way. Okay, the example f in bracket 1 comma 1. This is the condition which will lead to a statement coverage, 100% statement coverage for this code. For any other thing, it will not lead to statement coverage. Okay, will it go to conditional coverage? Yes, doesn't matter what is the input. Why? Because statement in any way is getting checked.
Yes, sir.
Right, so that is the difference.
Yes. Okay, okay.
Coverage means is the compiler able to read all the statement out of the branch, inside the branch.
Okay, so got it, sir. And one more question from the practice assignment 10. The last question, can you explain that?
Okay, just question number.
Question number 12.
Okay, so this is related. Okay, white box testing is it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So white box testing involves the testing of software code for which of the following. Okay, the output of the given output of the code given the input, the flow of specific inputs through the code, the functionality of conditional loop, all of the above. Hmm.
So
Okay,
why the
so see, there are
option
two
one
types
is
of
not? Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
yeah. So
Continue, sir.
why option one is not correct? Why is option one not correct? Because white box testing is the testing of the code itself within. Okay. So if you see at the second option, the flow of specific inputs through the code. Okay. So what happens within the code if there are certain inputs are given? Okay. So white box testing is I'll relate it to the model, right? So there is a model, not the model of MVC, the model based testing model. Okay, that I was talking few minutes back. Okay, so there is a model. Okay, there is some mechanism within the model. There is some code written within the model that is giving me some output based on certain inputs. Okay, now model based testing will also look at the outputs and inputs. Okay, and the code itself. The white box testing will not be that much bothered about the outputs and inputs. It will give us the flow of code within the box. Why is it white box? It's something we can see through. Why is it black box? What is black box? Something it is which is not visible. Okay, what is happening is
Interface only.
yes, what is happening is in the background. Okay, in white box testing, you are able to see what is happening in the code exactly, so that you are getting this out. Okay, so so what it does is it gives the flow of the input, and since we are talking about the flow of the inputs through the code, we are looking at the code. We are also covering the conditional loops that are there in the code.
Yes, yes. And the first one option is correct for black box testing.
Yeah, it is correct for black box, and all of above are correct for model-based testing.
Okay. And what about the gray box testing?
Gray box testing is gray box testing. Yeah, it is. It can be correct for gray box testing also. Because what is gray box testing exactly? It is taking the positive features of white box and taking the positive features of black box.
Okay.
So what is
And
black box giving you? The output of the code for a certain input. So yeah, so if that is done, that will be gray box testing.
yes, okay. And can you repeat the model-based testing again?
Okay. See, so model-based testing, for example, we'll try to relate it with something that is related to data science. Okay. So what happens in a data science model? Not in the model, in a real case of a data science, what do? We see that we give certain inputs, and we see that something is happening in the input is given to a model. Not okay. I don't want to bring that word model for now. For example, you have a transfer function. Okay, what is a transfer function? You give input, something happens to the input, and you get the output. Okay, now you're not really, don't have to be really specific with what happens to the input. The important is you give an input, something happens, and you get the output. Okay, in a real life data science, in real life scenario, what happens? You give, and then something is interpreted out from the machine or whatever it is. Okay, so you are giving input in the transfer function, something is happening in the transfer function, and you get the output. Okay, now you don't know what is happening in the transfer function, but you want to create a model that will exactly replicate the transfer function. Okay, and will give similar outputs as given by the transfer function. Okay,
Okay.
so you're not exactly creating the transfer function because you don't know. Okay, but if you are getting same output, does it really matter what is there in the transfer function?
No. Okay. So the difference between the gray box and model is like gray box testing is the code internally, check the code internally and externally both. And the model is check the code externally, but for internally it will not check the original code, but it will create its own code.
Yes, yeah, correct.
Is
You're
it like
getting
that?
it right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so it is you're trying to replicate the output. Okay, now how does the
Yes.
output get similar to that of the transfer function is not really that we are bothered about. Okay, we are bothered about getting the output. Okay, that is the reason we call the thing that we created as the model of the transfer function.
Okay.
Okay, now how close is my model to the actual problem is called as model based testing. Right. So for testing, you should know what is inside, what all parameters you need to check, what is it you don't want to check, right? But you cannot do that because you don't know what is inside exactly. But you really want to do that. How will you do that? With the help of model.
Yes. 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 Okay.
Okay.
Can you see the 10.3 activity question 10.3?
Okay, let me go to that. Okay, so you clear with the model-based testing, by the way?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so similar things happen in data science. Okay, so when you try to replicate a human functionality, what happens? A human interprets a figure and say that okay, this is number 10. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, the human interprets a number. It looks at 1 and 0 and says okay, this is number 10. Okay, what exactly happened inside the human being that you don't know. Okay,
Yes.
what you do, you try to create a similar model that can see that number 1 and 0, and with hundreds of practice, it tried to memorize that okay, anything that is 1 and 0 or similar is 10.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Now, what you are trying to do here is creating a model which is giving you the interpretation of whether it is or the number is 10 or not. If you are getting it right every time, you don't have to bother about what exactly was there in the human, because you can replicate the same thing with the help of a model.
Yes.
So that happens in the data science. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
In the
question,
activity question 10.3, the question number 2.
activity question 10.3. Okay. Which of the following statement is not true in the context of model-based testing? Okay, yeah. So model-based testing is a software testing technique in which test cases are generated automatically from the model of the system. Okay, is this part clear?
Yes, yes. Okay,
Okay.
so not true. Sorry, I got it, sir.
Okay. Oh yeah, it is not true. And very simple answer, model-based tool, because it is testing. We are talking about testing every time. Okay, so
Yes,
it is
yes.
not important to understand why it is what is not true, but it is important to understand why others are true. Okay, so you are clear with the first point. Model-based testing is a software technique which test cases, sorry, in which the test cases are generated automatically from the model. Right. So we do not know what is
Yes.
exactly happening in the actual system, but we can create test cases based on the model of our system.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that is first one. Model-based testing activities in a test process should follow a sequential order. It is important. Why? Because changing the sequence of order will change the sequence of output. To change the way in which outputs are generated. Okay. So any change in a data science model will change its output drastically. Okay, it will come back to the convergence once again, but there will be change in the output initially. Okay. Third point
Okay.
is a model in model-based testing is a description of system behavior, right? It is a description, not the exact replication, not of the output, but the system. Okay. Input sequences, actions, conditions, output, and flow of data from input to output. That is what is model-based testing.
Okay. And so can you explain the option 2, like MBT activities means like what? Can you give one example?
Okay, so that can be related with the third one. The third, what is the thing? Input sequences. Okay, what is the sequence of input you are giving? Okay, action,
Okay.
conditions. What is the flow of conditions? What are the things that are being checked initially? Then what are the things that are checked later? Okay, and then the
Okay.
output and flow of data. So this sequence should be maintained. Now, what
Yes,
will
yes.
happen if the sequence or input sequence change? You might get a different data based on the conditions, a different output based on the conditions you are defining within the model. Okay, if the input sequence is same, but for some reason the way the way the conditions are formatted are changed, you will again get different output, which will deviate initially, but it will come back to its original part. So this initial deviation is something that we do not want. Okay. Now this terms initial deviation, divergence is something that is more, relevant to data science.
Okay. Yes, sir. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I did not see anything in the chat.
Should I ask two questions?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I have two questions. So one question is that when we discuss about that conditional coverage, if there's a if, but there is no else part, then if we cover that if part, that is enough, I guess, right?
Yes.
And if there is if, then else if, that kind of multi-staged conditions is there, then conditional coverage, you have to cover all the if and else part, right?
Yes, so conditional coverage, that will depend on the type of input. So if you may have observed the slides, for certain things only one input was was okay, but for certain things you have to give more than two inputs. So if I go to the slides again and show you that particular part, just give me a moment. So if you go to the branch coverage, this is what the question that you asked is something that is related to branch coverage. When are these branch happening?
Are you
When
displaying your? Are you displaying?
no, I'm not.
Oh.
Should I?
No, it's okay.
Okay, so I move. So I just assume that
Sir,
you
please
have the
display
slideshow.
your screen.
Sorry.
Sir, please share your screen.
Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, so is it visible, my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
so see, so when we are talking about branch coverage, okay, so when are we talking about branch coverage? When there is something like if and else. Okay, so if not else, if else is not there, still you want that if it is failing in one condition, it will go to another condition. Okay, therefore we need this first statement, right? So if you focus on this first statement, at least two tests needed. Why there are two tests needed? Because the first condition 1 1 that will give that will pass the condition and go within the if statement. Okay, and the 1 0 that will fail the condition and will go to other conditional block. Okay, so for example, if there was else, so let me see if there is. Okay, so if you see here, see 0 1 first condition fails, second succeeds, right? So for that we need to give input in this way. Okay, and secondly, first condition succeeds, second fails. So for that we need to give this input. So we are giving multiple inputs to ensure that all the statements are covered.
Okay, got it. So, okay, so if there are multiple stages, then I have to give the multiple inputs to cover all this.
Then so to make sure that all this, because in one test case or one set of input, you can never go to all the conditions.
Right.
So you have to, so to ensure that your your compiler go through all the statements once, it should go to all the conditions once.
Okay, so this part is clear. So I have a second question. The question is that so far, as a web server, we have used whatever the inbuilt-in Flask, which is not a production grade web server. Now, when we are going to use the production grade, say Apache or Nginx, something like that, in this course.
Okay, so so see, will not be going to that part of the server, like not using the Apache server as in. Okay, what we will be doing is we'll be using the third-party applications to deploy our application. Okay, so for example, we'll be using things like Glitch and Heroku. Okay, so once you're done with your application, you can deploy your application, put it into Git repository, and deploy it from there using Heroku or Glitch, and then you will be able to make it available for the other users, right? So whatever server these third-party applications are using, our application will use that.
So the standalone web server that is going to be used in app dev 2, or it will never release. So how this?
The standalone web server. Okay.
Others, I think he is asking about the local server which is running as development. So that cannot be used as a deployment, production server.
Okay, so you're saying that when are we going to use localhost as for production?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. He is asking that
So no,
question.
that is not something that is very risky for security, right? So we'll not do that.
Okay.
Will not do that. But see, so that's what. So when we'll use these these applications like Heroku, these platforms which allow you to deploy your application for the others to use, what will happen? Your security will be maintained, right? Because then your protocol will change from HTTP to HTTPS. Okay, so in that sense, whatever server, so in that sense, I am not sure here, but you can assume that if they're providing a secure server or secure connection, they should be using servers like Apache and other. Okay, because now here you're not creating your own server and creating your own server and asking your application to run on localhost. You want your application to run with its own domain and URL. For that, we need a server that is on 24/7. Okay, now so once you deploy your application will be available 24/7. This means that in background somewhere this or similar server is being used. This as in this Apache, the production servers.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
Okay, so yeah, so this is something we'll be doing. So we'll be not using the localhost for other servers. Okay, am I clear with this part?
Yeah, I'm answered. Thank you.
Okay, so I have just let me stop this part. Yeah, so there are
Hello,
raised
sir.
hands from. Yeah, Rakesh, I'll come to you. Just give me a minute. There are other raised hand also. Okay, so there is a hand raised from Bhavya. You want to say something?
Sir, I had a question regarding coverages.
Okay.
Is there any specific hierarchy of coverages, like statement coverage covers functional coverage, branch coverage, and all of them, or is it each one
No,
is?
it is not like that because every other is not a subset of other every other.
Okay, sir.
Right? So if had others been, so let's say if statement coverage was a subset of conditional coverage or functional coverage, we'll only test the functional coverage, right? Why is there a need to have a statement coverage? So we might create codes, we might create scenarios where one coverage is getting satisfied but not the other. So there is no hierarchy.
Okay, sir, got it. Thank you.
Okay. So there is one question. I think if you go through it, you will come to know that these are not interrelated and individual things. Okay, next, Chaitanya.
Hi, sir. My question is regarding beta softwares. One of the questions in the practice assignment, probably question number 10, if I'm not wrong, had two statements. Beta software refers to more advanced and therefore more stable versions of software than what is released to public. And the other one was beta software may be more advanced, but in general less stable than the release software. I cannot actually well, get to it ki how are either of the statements wrong.
Okay. So, okay, just let me go to that part.
Yes, sir.
Which question is it exactly?
Sir, question number 10, practice
Question number
assignment.
10. Yeah, beta software refers to more advanced and therefore more stable versions. Beta software will be more advanced, and but in general less stable and release software. So second one is correct, right?
No, the second one they are saying is correct. But how can we be so sure that it will be less stable always than a release software?
See, because not exactly, but one of the reasons why we are saying that it may be less stable is that beta software is not the exact replication of the software, but some of the features from the major software are taken and put into beta softwares, right? So we also call it as a light version, right?
Okay.
LITE. So these light versions, why are we calling them light versions? Because they are not as code heavy as the original releases. Okay, now if you want to separate out something that is that was a part of original software, but not taking the exact things from there, not taking the exact code from there, we might miss on some of the things, some of the coding part that was making it stable.
All right.
Okay, so for example, for let's say you are creating an application, okay, and in your application you went on from the scratch, created a simple HTML form, but then at the end of the day, when you were completely done with the application, you created it with proper validation at the client side and server side. Okay, everything was properly done, every validation authentication is completely done, which made your code very heavy. Okay, now you want to create a light version of that software which will have only client side validation. Okay, now you yourself can say that this version of application which I created next is not that stable. Okay, because someone can easily enter what we say intercept through the client side validation.
Okay, sir. And sir, can we be sure that these beta softwares are only used for pilot projects?
Not 100% sure with that statement. Okay, so don't want to commit on that. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I'm not really sure with that, but this is yeah. But your first question is something that I'm sure about the stability.
Okay, sir. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. So can you tell me the second question once again? I'll make a note and try to answer it on this course.
Are beta softwares used for pilot projects always?
Always.
Always or sometimes, matlab, it can be any.
Okay. So you wanted to know are beta softwares only used for pilot projects?
Yes.
By the way, ma'am, do you have any idea on this statement?
Actually, specifically with, I don't have any specific to the pilot projects and all, but beta software is a pre-release version of that original software release, right? So it will consist of all the properties of the original release software, but it is a pre-release one, and the real-time implementation cannot be done with this beta software.
Yeah, that's what. So what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you try to relate with the example that I gave you, initially you will start off with client side validation. Okay, and if you stop at that point, it will be the initial release. Okay, and then you work on your project and have the server side validations also. Okay, that will be your original project.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay, so all right. So if this part is clear, I'll get back to you with the pilot thing. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, yes, Bhavya, you're correct. So you have written here, beta softwares are considered to be unstable. They're like the closed trials for a new medicine which cannot be released to the public at large scale because it might have adverse side effects, right? So we do not know uh, uh, how one can intercept with your code at this point. Okay, once you make sure that, okay, now this is the highest level of security I can bring in, then you release it as a secured application. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Yeah, Rajesh.
I have a query regarding the final project. Can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, will there be any live session for the API part?
Yes, Rajesh. So this application, yeah. So I've been talking on talking on loading an API in your controller from like 2 to 3 sessions. Okay, but finally I'll be having it on Saturday. Okay, so next session
Yes,
on
sir.
Friday, which is on Friday, there our faculty like Tej sir will be joining in, where you can so where we'll be taking you through the entire question statement. Okay, then you can ask your doubt, everything related to any understanding or misinterpretation of the statements that are given in the project question statement. Okay, after that, we on the next day, Saturday's session, will have a small explanation of how to load APIs. Okay, so this is where
Okay.
some like so many people are getting stuck. So we'll clear that on Saturday.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, yeah. So if there are any other doubts, you can unmute yourself and ask. Okay, no doubts anyone. By the way, yeah. So this was so this last 50 minutes we have had a good interaction. Okay, discussing some doubts regarding the lectures and uh, projects. So that is really good. So a discussion, something like this, will clearly enhance our knowledge as well and your understanding also. So it is better we have a open session, open from both the sides. Okay, no other question. Okay, so yeah, so one feedback from your side. This Saturday session, what exactly you want me to explain, right? So what exactly with let me tell you where my confusion is. Okay, so what is happening? We are creating our application. Okay, so we are setting up some controllers. Okay, which does the so which controllers these controllers do the exact the actual job of retrieving data and things like that. But here what happens with the API, this CRUD operations has to be implemented with the help of API. Okay. Now the job of controllers is to only load these APIs, okay, get the data and send it to respective templates. That is all we will be doing. Okay. So I'm planning to, in this session, I'm planning to, create a software, an application, web application, which will be doing things on controller. Okay, and then we'll try to do the same thing with the help of API and incorporate them in the application. Okay, so I guess this is something where most of the learners are getting stuck, or is it something else?
Yes, sir. One question that what are the templates for APIs? These templates will be different from the dashboards and tracker graph. These kind of templates, right? It will be different from that, right?
No. Nothing different from template. So see what happens is you get the information from an API. See, a controller will retrieve the information, an API will retrieve the information. Both will do the same thing. Okay, but how does an API return information even on the screen in the form of JSON or plain text? Okay, which is not really useful. If you try to render a template with the help of API, it will again give you something in the form of this thing only, JSON. Okay, it will never render the template. Okay, now that
But sir,
information, yeah.
yes, sir, continue, sir.
Yeah, so that information has to be retrieved, okay, changed from template to simple text or something that can be interpreted and put inside the templates. Okay, now that templates are those templates that we are creating using HTML and things. Okay, okay, now the hints, yeah, so can you give some hints on how to load them? So this is something that we'll be doing, right? So no need of hint. This is something that we'll be doing. We'll be creating API, loading them, retrieving the data, putting them into templates. That is what.
Sir, I'm asking that
Yeah. So
suppose
yeah, right. Yeah.
suppose the dashboard is there. There will be a like create button, create tracker. Suppose I click the button and a new page will open. Then whatever I do, that will be
Just give me a minute,
done by
Rakesh.
the.
Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Just give me a
yes,
minute.
sir.
Yeah, Rakesh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, sir. Suppose there is some button like create tracker or view tracker. So I will click the button and the information will come from the controller. Then I will render it like some graphs or different like approaches. But for API, it will throw just text input. So no CSS or styling should not be there, right? In those templates.
You can have it when.
Like if there are like templates to show the graph and all the things, then why we need another template for API? I'm not clear with the like concept actually what we have to do.
Okay. So see, this graph is one part of the HTML page that you're creating. See, even if you're creating a graph, where do you want it to get rendered?
In the HTML form, sorry, HTML
Right.
code.
So in HTML, it will be used as an image, right? Now this
Yes,
image is dynamic, right? Getting generated depending on each time you log something in the track.
yes,
Okay, now this HTML is getting generated in your database. It's not exactly the database. You can create a folder and save all the HTML files. Okay, so these files are getting created and getting retrieved whenever the template is calling.
yes.
Right. So for even if you want to show your files, that is including that is having some images and graphs and stuff, you will anyway need templates which are HTML, nothing but HTML files.
uh, Sir, like to be specific, that you have given like a wireframe. Uh, so from that I can idea that what type of things we have to do, but there is no template for the like API. So I'm not able to like.
See, firstly, you are a bit confused about the template of API. See, there is nothing some called as templates of API. Okay, what happens is that's what is API is doing. They are giving you JSON. Okay, and what you are thinking is there a template that makes the information of API more eventful or look like how they should come on an HTML file, right? Now, is that correct? Is that your doubt?
Yes, sir. So what we have done in the insomnia. So there is a input box. I put the input and the JSON in curly brackets that is coming. So the insomnia interface that should be in the template. Is it?
Okay, so no. You that's in insomnia is giving you the output of API. Okay, for example, you created a profile page. Okay, that profile page is having the name and information of the user. Okay, but you give only the name, and that information, retrieving the data about the information of that particular user is done by the API. Okay, now what will API return? By the way, it will only return the information in the form of JSON. For example, what is this information? Let's say username, and password and his birth date and okay, educational background and things like that. So these are something that you are saving in the database. Okay, now this information is retrieved by the API and shown to you. How is it shown to you with in the form of JSON? That's it. Okay, now you want to use this information, this JSON information, and put it into your template. How will you do that? You load that API in the controller, and controller will render that information into the template.
Okay. So in the controller, we are getting the data directly from the database, but it should be rendered from the API.
No, so it is, this API is something like your employee. Okay, the employee of controller. Okay, so you will hit the controller. Controller will ask API to do the job. Okay, and all the job is done by the API, and controller takes the credit of it.
Okay. So I got the idea, but it will be better if you show a demo in the live
Yeah.
session.
So that is something that I'm trying to. Yeah. Okay. So now
Hello,
how to perform
hello, sir.
authentication?
I have a doubt.
Yes.
Sir, this part you explained about API being implemented in the controller. I have two questions. One is I did it using the Python request library.
Yeah. So that is something you should. That is how you should do it.
Yes, sir. So, sir, is there any standard recommendation which would perform well or something? Or request is okay enough?
Request is more than sufficient. And that is something that I'll be showing on Saturday.
Okay.
But sir, in
second thing
normal.
is,
So go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So second question is this when we, like, for example, when in the HTML we would have had some roots or some links hrefs given, and that will be the decorator for our basically the controller. So basically when the person who clicks it, so basically HTTP request is sent. And then when that request is sent to this, it comes to this controller, and this controller will make another HTTP request. So it's like two HTTP requests for a single job.
Yes.
So why don't we directly interact with the database from this thing? What is the advantage through API?
Yeah. So this is a good question. So let me explain this part. Okay. So since you are creating the API and also the controller, you are saying that this is two questions. Okay, you're thinking that this is doing the job twice. Okay, what if I tell you I create the API and you do only fetching my API and doing the job?
Yes, sir. This I agree. Like, for example, if you develop an API, it opens up options so that you give multiple people can think of different ways to make an app. Maybe somebody can use some features, somebody can use other features.
Yeah, so that is the idea. That why are we using APIs?
Okay.
Because it is some others' work. So instead of repeating the code itself, why don't we use the functionality?
Okay, got it, sir. The only thing was when one person is doing the entire app, this seemed a little excessive. But this, given this picture, this looks correct. Yes.
Yeah. So that's what. So that is you should be able to do both. Okay, you should be the person who uses the API, and you should be also able to be the person that creates the API. All right.
Yes, sir. Got it, sir. Thank you.
So that is the idea. So yeah. So initially it looks like why are we doing same thing when it is too simple using controllers. But when you have this picture, so what happens is we have these apps like Swiggy, okay, and Zomato, and all these things that use the map of Google. Okay, they could have done their own, but why? Because why don't they do? Because they have very something that is more reliable. A map from Google is more reliable, right? So why not use that map instead of creating their own?
Yes, sir. Even in the research field, big databases like Embase and Scopus, they also give access to various components of the database through APIs. so that people can bring up some interesting solutions for different
That's
use
right.
cases.
So here, since the user and the creator of API both are you, it seems like a double job. Otherwise, it is beneficial for becoming a API creator that it provides some service and also a consumer of the API. Okay, so why are you going that far? We have used this CoWIN API in our lectures. Why are they releasing or why are they keeping some APIs open for us to make an application that uses their data from the database?
Right, so correct. COVID and even those, NSC also has an API for access of stock data, real time analysis.
Yeah, exactly. So why
Yes, sir,
to
got
maintain
the
our
whole.
own data where we have information handy with this interfaces? Right.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Rakesh.
No, sir, got it. I got it.
Yeah. So one question. Yeah, actually, this Saturday is too far, but I guess that is the closest, right? Because other things are a little bit too tight. Okay, so we also need to have a look at the project part, which seems more of more importance currently, right? All the students should understand the project statement first, and then they can move on to API part. Okay, so Saturday operationally is the closest we can arrange. Okay, and then there is again how to perform authentication in API classes only and pass it to the controller. So that thing is actually will be so that is something that we want to do, right? Authenticate, retrieve data, authenticate or store data with the help of APIs, and the controllers will only get that data from the API and put it to the templates. That is what we are. That is what we want to get, right? Actually. Okay. Yeah. So Neeraj, you raised your hand. There's a question from you, sir.
Yes, sir. My question was related to authentication itself because I was trying to implement it, and I saw a lot of documents on the internet that it can be used. It can be done using JSON Web Token. So, is it possible that I can use that library in my project, or will there be any issue?
No issues, no issues. You can use external libraries. Just make sure it doesn't, overcomplicate your code.
Yeah, I understand that. And
Yeah.
one another thing that right now what I'm doing is to modify the tracker and the data every time I'm asking for username and password. Okay, so in YAML file I have defined the type as a password, so it comes like a star star. But in the URL I can see the username and the password in the terminal printing. So how
are you using get method?
Yes, on the get method.
Yeah, so get method will have all the parameters you put in as a form of URL. Okay,
Yes.
so everything will come in after the question mark.
Yes.
In the URL, right? So that will happen. That is the nature of get. You can use post method rather.
Post method to retrieve the data also, because what I'm trying to do is trying to retrieve the trackers created by the user. So I mean it has to be used with the get method, right? Not the post method.
Yeah, so to retrieve data, but why are you providing the password then?
Because to retrieve the data for whatever tracker I have created, I want to access that trackers only, or provide the user the a restriction that he can access only the trackers which he has created, and not the from the any.
So you're talking about profile here. You're creating a profile, and the trackers within the profile remains intact to that particular user, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but still I don't understand why username and password both are required.
Because if he does not validate, I mean, then I can retrieve the tracker data of any users, right? With the get request.
No. So see, what happens is you can, so have you create this username that you are creating, have you put a constraint of it being unique?
Yes.
So you can simply retrieve all the data, all the trackers by username itself, not password.
Okay, but is it recommended? Because username, I mean, uh, if somebody knows the username, he can retrieve the data easily, right? So
See, what is
in the
actually
real
happening?
world, will it be?
No, so see. Once this data, this tracker and all are visible only when you enter your profile, right?
Yes, yes.
So when you enter the profile, you will have to pass your name and password both.
Yeah, but that is valid for the UI part, right? If somebody is trying to access the data from the API only, so he does not have to authenticate, right? He can directly, if he knows the username, he can directly get all the data.
So you create the session, right? When you're
Uh,
logging in, you create a session. Okay, in this session will be activated only, or put your username and password in encrypted form in the server only when you log in. Okay, now if somebody tries to directly hit the URL, the session does not have user information. In that case, it will not allow the user or whoever is trying to directly hit the URL. In that case, it will not allow the retrieval of data.
Okay. So when I'm trying to access it from the Insomnia, that the data can also be stored in the system.
See, the purpose of having login form is that once you are logged in, so I guess in the one of the solving instructor session, I said that the purpose of having a login interface is that once you are logged in, your data has to be saved in the what we say session. Okay, once this data is saved in the session, external person cannot hit other URL or login URL unless you log out.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so now if somebody else is trying to hit that URL using your username, which will retrieve the data, it should prompt or it should redirect that particular user to go back to login page.
Okay, sir, I'm not asking about the pages, web pages right now. I'm just asking about the Open API. So, what you are saying that from Insomnia also, when I try to use any of the get post or any method, first I have to log in, and then only I can access the other. I mean, other calls that put delete and
Yes, it should be. No. In Insomnia and all, it should be okay because see, you are directly hitting the URI of API, the resources,
yes, yes.
not any route in the controller that is
Right.
associated with the view function.
Right.
Okay, so in case of Postman or Insomnia, what you access is the resource of the API, which should give you the data no matter what. In that case, the the authorization key of the API has to be given.
Yeah, correct, correct. So that I think authorization token, it should be based on authorization token, and every request is coming from the Open API has to be authenticated based on that authentication token, right? Okay, okay,
You should have the authentication key, and then only you can retrieve data with the username itself.
okay, okay, sir. Thank you. Got it.
Yeah, so this is something. Yeah, so this is something which talks about security and authentication in different levels. Okay, so initially we're talking about application. What you wanted was to talk about authentication in case of API only.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Got it. So in that case, you will be, so if you want to secure some data, so directly do not hit the URL, get the data. In that case, you have to get the authentication key, or you have to set it since you are the creator.
Yes, sir. So that's why I was, I found this JSON web token which can be used for that purpose. So I was not sure whether I can use that library in the project.
No, you can use it.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you.
So this is where you are adding an extra layer of security to your application.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So yeah, so in case of UI, so when we go back to UI, everybody will not be, that, acquainted with the URI and stuff that you are employing in your application. Okay. It is only for those people who have seen your code out and in.
Yes.
Right. So if you are giving your application to somebody for use, for example, if I am going to see that, I will be going through the UI part mostly.
Yes, sir. There are lots of I mean there is a lot of things we can put in place if somebody is going through the UI. So we can put restrictions there, but in Open API, it's really like,
yeah, correct. So yeah, but one suggestion, you try to get that authentication, the level of authentication in the UI first, and then go back to token.
Okay, sir.
Because why? Because at the end of the day, when we will be evaluating the project, and we see that okay, there is something done and something not done in the UI part. Okay, we can still access things in the UI, and then we are not doing it, and it is done in the API part. That will something that is the flow of, or the sequence of how the thing should be done is disturbed here.
Okay.
Okay, one doubt here. This web token, is it authenticating your API, or its use in the UI also?
I think if I implement the authentication token, then it will be used in UI as well, right? But
Okay,
but there we can have another option, like user is already authenticated based on the username and password in the session, so we can bypass the API key. Okay, or otherwise we can always since API key is related to the user itself, so he already have the access of that API key, so we can directly pass that API key through the UI as well without the user's knowledge.
Yeah, so just authenticate the user using username and password, and provide that API key with respect to password. So you can link that API key to the password. So if you get this password, you give this API key to the API and use that.
Yes, sir.
Or something that like that can be done.
Okay, sir.
Okay, yeah. So Snail, in context of the project, we are allowed to add a little more functionalities. Definitely yes. Okay, and graphics element as we please. Yeah, sure. So once you're done with the basic functionality and requirements of the project, you have acquired or incorporated everything that was required, a bare minimum in the question statement. You can go ahead with improving it in the core functionalities also, in the UI also. No issues. Okay. All right. Yeah. What question about the tracker type? On the multiple choice type. Okay. Okay. For this, I'll have to go to the question statement. One second. Just give me a minute. Okay. Okay. So this tracker type. So if you go to the question statement, should I wait? Let me check. Okay. So is this part visible by the? Okay. So I'm hoping this part is the screen is visible. Okay. So if we go to this thing, okay, the running tracker. So running tracker, what are we tracking here? Number of kilometers that are okay. Yeah. So number of kilometers that are the user is running every day. Okay. Now every time if I hit this tracker, I will be only logging the number of kilometers that I run. So every time the data that I'm putting in is numerical. Okay. So I can set this new tracker type for as the numerical. Okay. Now if I go to okay, and then now consider a situation where I'm creating this track. Okay, and one of the field that I'm entering in the tracker was same tracker. Okay, running tracker. Okay, now one of the fields was how many kilometers did I run that particular day. That is one of the logging that I'm doing. Now I want to add another field, and the logging of that field was what was the type of terrain that I was running on. Okay, was it dry, was it high altitude, what is slope, was it slopey, okay, was it very rough, okay. So all these things that I'm telling you, high altitude, okay, steep, slope, normal, rough, what are these types? These are not numerical. Okay, now this is not numerical, and I'm giving two types of data here, the number of kilometers in numerical and the type of terrain in as the string. Okay, so here it is not only numerical but both numerical and string. So therefore there is the picture of multiple choice. Okay, so if you create a tracker which will have only numerical tracker type, it will receive data, or it will take the data that is only numerical. Okay, but if I do it multiple choice, it will allow me to set fields which is one numerical, one string, one is float, and things like that. But the MC type can be comprehensive too, right? So yeah, that's what. That also you can put. So it depends on the user, right? The type of things he wants to log. That is the reason we are giving it multiple choice.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So here, how do we incorporate that timestamp functionality?
Yeah, so it can be done using datetime module in Python.
And sir, one more thing. What do you mean by trend line in this project?
See, so just let me make this date time thing more clear. Okay, so simply telling the name of module will not suffice. See, what will happen, the when do you want to want the timestamp? Okay, when do you want it? Whenever you log it, right? Whenever you want to log in any tracker, you want the time to be noted at what time I'm logging. Okay, so if I so let me take the example of the running tracker 1 second. Okay, so I enter the tracker. So if I enter the tracker, click on the tracker, that event should trigger the date time thing. Okay, that event should call the date time function. Okay, okay, date time that should trigger the datetime dot now function. Okay, we do have a function called as datetime dot now. Okay, so that will be the function that you will be calling. Okay, so whenever you click on the tracker or on that particular tracker to log something, it should call the function this datetime. Yeah, so it is in the chat, datetime dot now. Okay, so it will track the time at that instant where you click. Okay, so that is how you bring the timestamp into that code. Okay, this is one thing. Second thing, the trend line. Okay, so the trend line, again I'll take the example of running time. Okay, so you take the example of from today, from this Wednesday to coming Wednesday. Okay, and then you are tracking it every day at 6:30 p.m. Okay, so today's time. Okay, so every 6:30 every day on 6:30 you are tracking. Okay, and you are entering the number of kilometers you ran that particular day. So let's say it is 5 today. Okay, tomorrow it is 2, next day it is 3, and then 7, then 9, and things like that. Okay, So at the end of the, and then after 1 week, you will have a graph that will be creating or that will be graphing your kilometers ran per day. Okay, which will give you, okay, you're running less this day, you're running, so you have improved in the running. That is the trend that you're talking. Why are we talking about graphs and trends? That just give you, these graphs and trends give you an interpretation, a graphical interpretation of the figures that you have been entering. Okay, simply entering and looking at them will not make sense. Is this part clear, sir?
Sir, for plotting the graph, we will be using matplotlib or
correct. Yeah, matplotlib will
any
be, yeah, matplotlib will be more than sufficient, good enough.
And sir, what is widget?
And you can log, for the log, you can use input type as date time, local to date time. So widget is something that is, you in the phone also you see widgets like clocks and calendars, right? So that in the small scale, that is something. You don't go into much detail. Okay. Get the basic functionality.
Sir,
Don't
can
go into
we,
detail. Yeah, then go ahead.
can we use libraries like pandas and seaborn also?
Would not suggest you to go to that, go that far. Why do you need pandas?
Just to handle
what is,
our,
what is the level of data we're looking at?
that's what you told us about the multiple choice, the settings part, right? Like for example, for running, initially we were thinking of only logging the distance. Actually, now it's like our user can log in multiple things. Like he can log in distance, and then he can log in his the type of terrain, maybe time of the day, something like noon or something. And maybe some other features, like 3 or 4 features. So we are looking at a significantly significant number of columns. So I agree with the small this thing we can handle, but in case we are comfortable with Panda and Seaborn, is it okay to use it or?
Okay. See, it's not about being comfortable in pandas and all. We have to, log these in database also. Okay, so I just want to make sure that at the end of the day, it doesn't go very, complicated. Okay, retrieving data from here and then putting it there and then logging it here and then retrieving so many things on database. SQLite 3 is a very lightweight database. It does not handle so many things. Okay, you simply do not commit one thing here and commit in the other controller. Okay, and your data will crash. It will say no table of this name is there. Okay, so a lot of manipulations will, you will have a fear of locking the database. Okay, so if you are okay with handling that exception, you can go ahead.
Okay, sir. I just have one more doubt on the multiple choice part. Hello.
Yeah. I'm there.
Yes, sir. So let's say we are we want to take input from the user in the HTML that the template that we are showing him for multiple choice type of question, that is the settings part. In that, actually there is the user may just enter one or not one, basically 2 or more things there, sir. In HTML, how do we handle this 2 or more inputs from the user? What structure do we use?
You can use
if we have a preformed like list or something, we can easily present it in a checkbox kind of thing, so that multiple things are selected, like we did in the course lab.
So
we can just select multiple courses. But if it's unlimited and open, whatever they want, they can add. How do we handle that using HTML forms?
Yeah, correct. So yeah, so in that case, I would suggest don't go too far. You can you can have limited number.
I currently what I've done is I'm just putting a disclaimer there. Whatever settings you want, put it as a comma separated field and just using the string for now, just to make the app work. But I'm not very happy with the solution, and I'm using split and strip at the back end to get the categories.
Got it. But yeah, so there is only so much we can do with HTML. Right? After all, it has a limit. There has to be a point where we need to incorporate and involve JavaScript. Okay, so if we are adding new things and we want that to appear as a part of drop down list, we will have to add JavaScript. Or same thing can be done in the, or then code should become heavy at the back end, the server side. Python has to do a lot. What you can do is yeah, so not only, so this part, this comma separated, what you said, this is something which is no, so what you can do is you add a field, right? You gave an option to add a field.
Basically, I've just put in a text box there saying settings, and above that, I've just written that whatever settings you want, you put a separate comma separated values. And even if the user puts in spaces and all, we can handle that with split and strip. Split using comma and then strip it both sides.
So that is one easy way. That is one very simple way of doing it. If it is okay, if it is running proper, you go ahead with it. Other way, you can get the idea of in the week 5 or week 7 assignment. Whenever we created a student, a new field used to get created there, which will have buttons of update and delete. Right. So similarly, what you can do here is just add a plus sign, something like that, which will add a new field. Okay, new input field. Take the input from that input field and store it as a form of checkbox. Right.
Got it, sir. Got it. It's a good idea.
Right. So something like that can be done. Just make sure you don't get very heavy with the code. The idea is to simplify the code as much as possible. Why? Because in Viva you will have to explain these things. Right. So it doesn't have to be overcomplicated, because you are creating it today. Okay, you'll remember it for a couple of days, and when the Viva comes, you'll have to revise everything, and everything will go above your head. Okay, so the code has to be very simple.
Oh, that's true, sir. Okay. I'll try to keep it minimal. But this is a good input.
So you can try incorporating what I said. If it is simple, you can. So if you remember the chat that we are having today in the time of Viva, it will be better for you to recall what you did.
Yes, sir. I'll try to implement this idea to them. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so Snail, you can use this libraries, matplotlib and numpy. Matplotlib will be required. I'm not sure how extensively or how extensive your data is, so you're using numpy. Okay, but you can use, no issues with that. Yeah, that's what. So the idea is to keep the application and code minimal, so that you will be able to explain every part of it. Okay, we can randomly, so there will be parts where you will be asked to explain your code. In that case, you should be in a position to do so. Making it over complicated and linking it to so many other parts, you will have to switch between screens and things and stuff like that. That is something we are thinking on, whether you have to explain the whole code or not. But yes, some functionalities is something that we expect you to explain. So you should locate that functionality, locate that part of the code in your code. Okay, you should be able to locate where you have written what.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So don't we have to run our code on a test basis, like we used to do in lab assignments? And
No. So this will not be auto-evaluated, Saurabh. In auto-evaluation, what happened? You had to submit your code, and it was tested against certain, public and private test cases, and then gave you an idea. Here, it is not. So there is no fixed way in evaluating your project. Okay, so will be, you can be open-ended in at this end, and then should be able to explain. So right, so in case of Viva, so whenever the Viva comes, you should be able to explain your code, and that will be evaluated. Okay, so you don't have to worry about complying with the question statement. Question statement as in the evaluation script and stuff.
okay.
Right? Ganesh, you can use any ID. No issues with that. VS Code will do fine.
And so we have to submit our code as well as that video presentation in a single file.
The project, whenever you submit the project, it has to be a single file. Okay, and the video has to be submitted just before deadline. So the provisions for uploading your video will be given on the portal. Okay, so that will be the final video. So once you are done with finally done with the project, you have to record and walk through in the video, right? You have to walk through of your application, give a walkthrough of it, what you have done in the form of video, and that will be taken as final part of your project.
And there will be separate link for uploading that video.
Yes, it will be given on the portal.
Okay.
Okay. So this is so you can have more detailed discussion on the project tomorrow, not tomorrow, on Friday, right? Okay, what does a suitable model for user mean? You don't have to explain the code in the video. Okay, you have to give a walkthrough of an application, of your application. Okay, this is what I've done, and this is how this is my tracker, this is how you log it, and things like that. What does a suitable model for user mean? Okay, where is it exactly in the question statement? Okay, slide 9. Okay, so suitable model for user, it is like proper information. See, what is a model doing here? Let me get that. What is a model doing here? A model is something that is storing information of the user. Okay, so what information would you like to have in that model? This is for authenticating the user, adding new user. Okay, so what information is required? The username, password. Email is optional. If you want to add it, it is okay. Right, so that will be a suitable model. You don't want a model to be, asking too many details of the user. Not required.
So can you explain once again that suitable user model for?
See, suitable model. See, why are we creating a model for use? Why are we creating it? It is only for creating a new user and authenticating the old ones. Okay, now what is the minimum information that you required? Name, right? The username that you are giving to the that you are logging in with or creating your profile with, and the password. That's it, right? And you can add additional things like email. Okay, only if you feel it is required. Otherwise, the username and password are themselves sufficient to authenticate the user and add new users. So that will be a suitable model.
So, but we are not required to. We are not asked to save the password. Then how can we authenticate user by a combination of username with password.
Why not save password? You have to save password, right? So your password will not be saved with in the code somewhere, but it will be saved in the database.
Okay, okay, sir.
Right now, how you save it depends on you. You want to directly save the password so that the user of application is able to see the password, or the user, not the user, sorry, developer, because he has the access to the DB. Okay, or you want to encrypt it in some way. Okay, that depends on you.
Sir, we have not been taught how to encrypt the password.
Sorry, I lost your voice. Hello.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yeah.
I'm audible. So we have not been taught how to encrypt our password in live session. So do we have to look for?
No, that is something. Does it require any teaching? See, you can use various libraries are there. Okay, what it simply does, it converts the text into an encrypted 32-bit or 64-bit string. Okay, and then there are methods which can retrieve whatever you have encrypted or decrypt, right? You can decrypt your encrypted thing back to that particular string. That is something you need to use. Okay, just just go and search for string encryption on Google, and you will get number of libraries that is in Python that is that will encrypt your your limited number of string to a 32-bit or 64-bit string encrypted. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, if you find one, go ahead. If you do not find one, just put it on discourse, right? And I'll try to give the answer to that. Okay, so if you want to use one, you can use hashlib. Okay, this is one I remember. Just search for hashlib and see what it gives you. Okay, there is one reference for you. Tejas sir has used bcrypt. Okay, in screencast 10. So you can refer that too. Okay, and I also see Cipher. I have not used it, so I'm not really sure what it is. Nidish, want to give a light on it? Is it something similar to bcrypt? If yes, you can use that also. Sorry. Okay, so you have three things now: hashlib, bcrypt, and Cipher. These are some things that encrypt your password, save them in database. Okay, and then decrypt or retrieve the same data or same string from that encrypted string. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yes, Chandrasekhar.
Hello. Good evening, sir.
Yes. Good evening.
Sir, I have one doubt. Like, I mean, I am not comfortable using in the API part. Like, I watched the lecture videos of previous weeks, and I understood how to use API. Like, someone in one lecture video used Postman. I remember. So that's clear. But when it comes to just input the data via API and then retrieve it, I'm not getting like how we have to do it.
Okay, Chandrasekhar. I would ask you to be a bit patient and wait for the Saturday session. Okay, I'll try to cover this part on Saturday session. Will you be able to
okay, sir,
attend
no
that?
problem. Yes, sir, sure. Like it's at what time?
11. Saturday session we have open sessions on 11. Okay, so generally these Saturday sessions are open session, right? So where we discuss about questions regarding the previous all the weeks and all your doubts. Okay, so this is more content wise thing, but this time we'll be having a solve with instructor kind of session. The reason being Friday we'll be having a session on project. Okay, wherein the faculty will join in and try to clear your doubts regarding the project question statement.
Okay, sir, no problem.
Okay, so I'll try to clear.
So till Saturday, what will you suggest to like focus on in which part, like the HTML and all?
Yeah, other things. Okay, and one more thing, if you really want to go into API part, as we have discussed earlier with Ganesh, right? So he's using request module, which I'll also be using. Okay, to load this API and use their responses in my templates. Yes, you can go to the
Okay,
request
sir.
module, which will help a controller to retrieve data from the API. Okay, it is
Okay, sir.
simply hitting a URL within the code. So how do we do that? With the help of request.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so you can go through it. If things are not clear, you can definitely attend the Saturday session.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Okay. Okay, all right. So any other doubt?
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Yes, yes.
Sir, where should we store the secret key used for hashing? Currently storing it in the main.py file only. So
The secret key is for what? What are you using?
So for hashing.
Nivesh, I'm unable to hear actually. Your voice is breaking. Hello. You can type on chat if it is possible. Okay, so meanwhile Nivesh is typing, is there any other doubt? Yeah, so currently you can store it in the, so if at all you're using a secret key, you can store it in the py file only, your main.py, no issues with that. Okay, so yeah, so currently we can do that. Otherwise, we can set it as an environment variable, okay, a permanent environment variable, and receive that secret key every time from that permanent environment variable. Okay. So whenever you will be using this application in your system, the secret key will be stored as a permanent environment variable. Okay, but that is something I would say don't put your time into these things much. Okay, you can go with the basic core functionality first, and then comes the security. So validation and things, validation and stuff are something that are not the core requirement, if I'm correct. Okay, you can definitely go with it, but these are for the latter part. Okay, yeah. So these see every time you can go to command prompt and use set keyword. Okay, the set keyword will set a, an environment variable. Okay, so you can create a variable name and assign a value just as we do in Python, but using set keyword. Okay, so that will set a environment variable from in your system. Okay, so it will not be available anywhere, but it will be available in the system. And every time you can use os.getEnv, this function. What it will do is it will retrieve that environment variable and will assign that value to the secret. Okay, so in that case you don't have to store a secret key or passwords anywhere in the code.
Hi, sir.
Yes.
So when I'm sending a request in Postman, like selecting JSON, in my API, I'm receiving dictionary. type of dictionary, not JSON.
Yeah, so JSON is something that looks like a dictionary.
Yeah, but I'm facing issue while receiving a response. I'm getting 500 response.
So the 500 response is not because you are receiving something that is not JSON. It is because your app is crashing somewhere. So this 500 is responsible for 500 is an indicative of internal server error. Why are we getting this internal server error? Because the app is crashing something.
Okay.
Okay, so it may be because you're not returning a valid response from an API. Or it may be because you're not returning a proper, you're not returning an HTML from the render template.
But I'm just testing API in Postman. That's it.
Okay, so no point of app. Okay, no issues. So you are testing API, but this API will have to run somewhere, right?
Yeah, correct.
You have to create a server, and this server has to run somewhere where you can go to directly hit the resources and get the data. Okay,
so when I like print the type of input that I'm getting from the API, but it is printing dictionary, not string, something called JSON string or something.
Can you repeat this part?
So when I send a JSON object in my post request, so that JSON is converting into dictionary.
Okay. So how are you sure about that?
I'm printing the type in the API part. I'm printing the type of the value I'm sending from Postman.
Okay. And the response you're getting as a dictionary.
Correct. So I have error like the JSON object must be str, not dictionary.
Okay. Okay. So how are you giving information to this application API?
JSON only.
JSON.
Yeah, JSON object.
Why JSON exactly? You can give information in the form of as a dictionary also.
Okay.
No issues with how we are giving information. Just ask.
Okay, so I have to select text in Postman or something. The content type.
No. See, no. So this Postman, you're hitting an API. Are you really hitting an API or any controller?
No, API directly.
Where have you created this API?
Like where in the application I'm creating the project application.
No. What library you have used? Flask RESTful.
What library? Flask RESTful only. Correct.
Flask RESTful, right? So Flask RESTful should return an application / JSON only. It should not return a dictionary.
Okay.
Are you using JSONify or JSON.dumps and things like that?
JSON.loads I did used.
JSON.loads will convert a JSON to dictionary. See, you want to use a JSON in your Python code. Okay. Now Python is more easier. So Python for Python it is easier to access elements of dictionary, right? So in that case, the function JSON.loads, right? Okay. It will convert an API into dictionary. So that may be the reason you are getting dictionary as an output.
No, I'm not getting output also. Like input only, I'm getting dictionary in API.
So
What?
input generally we give in the form of dictionary only, right? For API.
Okay, so I have to change the output, right? So to get the
Output should be a JSON. Application slash JSON. It should give the type something like that.
okay, thanks. I'll check. If doesn't work, I'll put.
You do not have to do anything to make that happen. Class
Okay.
RESTful will take care of that.
Okay.
Okay, so so one thing that you may be doing is probably instead of Flask RESTful, this route is not taking information from Flask RESTful, but from the URI that have controllers, or sorry, from the URI that is using JSON.loads and JSON.dumps.
Okay.
Okay, so it is a bit difficult for me to have, comment without having a look at the code, what
Yeah.
exactly is happening. But these are the possible scenarios which I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Okay, I got your point. So I'll check, sir. Thanks.
Is it something related to project that you're doing?
Yeah. Yes. So
case of a project,
the API is working from application, not from Postman.
no, Postman is just an agent that hits the URL, gets the response.
Yeah.
Okay, it is like a browser for APIs.
Okay.
Uh,
As
but
far
it
as
also,
it works in application, that is fine, right?
sorry.
As far it works in application, the API works in application, that is fine, right?
See, if you are giving a dictionary as an input to your API and getting a response in the form of JSON, it is completely an API behavior. So that is fine.
Okay.
Okay, so you make sure you try to get a JSON. Okay, what to do with that JSON? See, an API can return anything. Okay, it can return a dictionary, no issues with that. An API can return anything. But a standard return, or the standard thing that an API should return is a JSON. Okay, so maybe it is returning JSON but getting somewhere converted into dictionary with this JSON.loads or JSON.dumps or JSONify things like that. So just make sure what libraries you are using. Okay, if you can make use of the output that you are getting in the application, that is good enough. I guess that won't be an issue.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So yes. So yeah. So you can go ahead with this. If there is any issue, if something is happening which is completely making you stuck, then we will talk on that and have a discussion on it.
Yeah, I did use request.getJSON. Even then, the input is dictionary. Not sure why.
Input. See, getJSON is giving you the output.
Okay.
If you are concerned about input, actually you decide what to give as an input. Mostly we talk about giving input in the form of dictionary only. So if you are aware of request parser, how do we give the data? Give the data in the form of dictionary, right? Data equals to and then dictionary. So the input is generally given in the form of dictionary.
Okay. Okay. So I'll have to check the output format.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So, response to the Nidhi's question, that where should we store our secret key? So you told that first we have to set our first we have to set that secret key in our environment, and then we will fetch that secret key using sys.environment.get, right? But Hello.
os.get.env.
os.get.env.
And then within the bracket, you have to put the name of that environment variable as a string.
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, so if you want to have a practical information on that, you can go to screencast 5, week 5 screencast, structure of class cap.
Yes, sir. But my doubt is that this will work fine as long as I'm running my app on my machine, because the secret key has been stored on my machine, right? But when support team will run the same app, then how will they access that secret key?
So you will see, you will have to, you are giving the access to the core stream, right?
But
you are giving your entire code to the core stream.
Yes, but I am saving my secret key in my local machine using terminal. So
so in that case, what you can do is you can you can code in your application to set the secret key every time as in set the secret key once, and then whenever you try to run this application in any system, it should prompt the user to set a secret key, and that it should save that secret key as an environment variable. Then every time you want to use that secret key, you can use it.
okay, so all those user who is using my app, they will set their own secret key.
Yeah, that is something that can be done, or you can directly give your secret key, no issues with that. See, because even so when you are directly handing over your application, you also have to give the secret key. See, this is the secret key I'm using. You're giving access control of your application to the support team, right, for us to evaluate. Okay, so that's what I said. Do not go into stuff like environment variables. If there is something that you want to see, every time if you are using a secret key to hash or encrypt your passwords, what is being stored in the database are the passwords, the encrypted, not the secret key and stuff. It is in the code. Okay.
So what was that function name? os.get.env. What was
yes.
the
Yes, os.get. No, Sachin, you do not have to give the database file. Why? Because the user of the application should be able to create his own profile and hence his own data. You don't have to give the database. Okay. Yes, Aditya. Yeah, Aditya, you raised your hand.
Yes, sir. Sir, yeah, sir. Hi, sir. Actually, there is a doubt. I have created an API for creating trackers, and there I have made name and tracker type as a required field, and the default value for that is none. So, and here none, the API is returning an error of bad request. But when I am submitting the input through HTML form, so and typing nothing in the form and just pressing submit button, so that is storing an empty string, right? So that is not none. So it is not returning any error. It just gets stored in the database. So how to validate that thing? I wanted to know that.
Okay, so you want to. So what exactly you want to validate? So
Sir,
what you want to do that if it should not be
tracker type are not empty string, and there should be something name and tracker type.
No, so see in HTML, how did you set it required?
Sir, in the API part.
You set it required in the HTML form also. In that case, it will
No,
not take.
yeah, that I can do, but I wanted to know that how to validate that in the backend part, like in the API part.
Okay, so you take the response of password as that request.get. Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
and
sir.
try to check if it is an empty string. How do you check with something that you're using an if statement, right?
Yes, sir. So, I mean, sir, in the API part, I have met the name and tracker type as the default value for them is none. So when they are none, the API is returning an error of bad request. But when I'm submitting the name and tracker type through HTML
Yeah,
form,
I got your doubt. I got your
yeah,
doubt. See, so you are setting something in API and testing API individually. What it will test whether the input or data for tracker type is none or not.
yes, sir.
There it is getting validated.
Yes,
But
sir.
here, if your application is taking an empty string also,
Yes, sir.
if it is taking empty string also as a right thing that can be added, your API will not throw any error because it is
Yes,
because
sir.
your right because your application the thing the information that you're giving to API through your application is
Yes,
not
sir.
violating the API constraints,
Yes, sir.
right? So
Yes.
you have to check them. Uh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. So those who are live sessions can leave. Okay, so what you can do, Aditya, you can you can make it required in the your code
HTML
also.
form. Yes, sir.
That is one way. Secondly, if you want to do it in the server side, what you
Yes.
need to do is just check if it is an empty string.
Yes,
If
sir.
it is an empty
Okay.
string,
Mm-hmm.
if it is an empty string, don't let it go ahead.
Yes, but sir, that's not scalable, right? Because suppose if someone post a blank space like true true
Got it.
blank spaces, so that will also get stored in the database, right? So for
Yeah, but
how
I'm not
many things we
sure
will
if blank
validate that?
space is taken as I'm not sure if blank space is taken as an input in the HTML form when you do it required.
Yes, that part is okay, but what if I directly submit it through the command line interface or through the through the command line
So in the command
interface?
line,
Yes. Yes.
you will be so that's what right. The HTML form
Hmm.
is validating the UI part. Okay, if it is the information is getting through UI or the form. Okay,
Yes.
in if you are doing it in the command prompt and giving the values or parameters through the command line interface itself, what you
Yes.
need to do is have a server side validation.
Yes. That's what
This
I'm
server
asking.
side validation is something that you can build on with what I said, right? Having a checking if it is an empty string or something with the space or something like that.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay. What you can do is rather checking it with the empty string, check it with the
Hmm.
length of string.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is something nicer way. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if the length of string is even if you give space, it will not count. It will I guess it will not come as a part of or the length of string.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
I
You have
think the space is considered as a character, right? So that will
yeah.
count to the length of the string.
Yes, I get it. But so you can space will be counted as an empty string, so it will come as a length. Okay.
Hmm.
Then you can strip spaces.
Oh, oh yes. we can strip spaces, right?
Right, and then maybe equate it with empty string or length.
Right. We can strip the spaces, but yes. Okay, sir. So, sir, in our project, with regards to our project, are these things are mandatory, like this type of
No,
validations and all?
No, it's not mandatory.
Not mandatory, right?
Yes. Yeah. This is something you can do as an additional feature.
Okay, right? Sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so yeah, so we are well past 7. Okay, so others may have live session, right? So if there are no other issues, we can stop the session, right? And if other queries, if more detailed queries regarding the project, you can ask in in the next session on Friday. Will that be okay? Okay, so if there are no other doubts and queries, we can call it off. And those who have a live session for PDSA at 7, they can also leave the session and join them. Okay, so I guess it is fine. There are no more doubts currently. So yeah, so you can note your doubts, okay, and make yourself ready for the next session. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for joining this session. I guess there are no other doubts. So yeah.
Thank you, sir.